Hi, fourth graders. So we are ready to listen to part 5 of the one and only Bob, the second story that Catherine Applegate wrote with the characters from the one and only Ivan. Hope you are enjoying it as much as I am. I love that we get to find out more about the characters that we fell in love with. So we get to hear more about Ruby and Ivan and Julia, George, and most importantly, Bob. And as we continue on reading, we're going to find out a little bit more about Bob's life before he came to the one and only mall, the Big Top Mall. So we find out a little bit more about Bob's life before he met the one and only Ivan. And we get to see a happily ever after for him, which makes me super happy because Ivan and Ruby were able to get their happily ever after and get with animals that were like them. So it makes me happy that Bob gets that too. So in the section or the part that we read in the last video, part 4, we find out that Bob is becoming a little what he refers to as being soft. He's getting spoiled just a smidge. And part of his spoiling is that Julia takes him on walks on this tug-of-war string or leash, and they're getting ready to go visit Ivan at the park or the zoo where they've been taken. So this chapter is called Clock versus Moon, and you can hear my fur puppy over here squeaking on her toys. Clock versus Moon. Julia and I wait by the front door while George says goodbye to Sarah. I think maybe the hardest part for me about being domesticated, a pet, if you will, is that I can't control my own schedule. If I had my way, I'd hang out with Ivan and Ruby all day, every day. Unfortunately, humans love their clocks. Dogs, we use the sky to tell time, like any sensible creature. Sky says it's dawn, time to eat. It's noon, time to eat. It's afternoon, time to eat. It's dusk, time to eat. It's midnight, time to eat. Point is, it's always time to eat. Dogs have a thing for the moon, too, like wolves and coyotes and our other relatives. No calendars for us. Moon looks like a claw. Moon looks like half a pancake. Moon looks like a tennis ball. Moon looks like a claw again. A chunk of time has passed. So he just described the phases of the moon, didn't he? To things that he understands, a claw and half a pancake and a tennis ball. But humans, nope, that's not enough. It's not a chunk, it's a month. It's not just dawn, it's 6:32 a.m. on a Thursday. And boy, oh boy, we'd better hurry up and go to school or the office or change the baby. But who gives a woof about feeding the poor, starving, sad-eyed, grumbling tummied dog? After a spell, I got used to the comings and goings of Julia and her mom and dad, but it keeps changing. Julia leaves for school and is gone most of the day. She returns home excited and energized. Good sense, mostly. But every now and then she comes back smelling a little like me after a visit to the dog trainer, battle-weary and ready to crawl under the covers. Sarah, who was pretty sick for a while, is feeling fine again, thank goodness. But she went back to work, and she's away all day, too. And George, who has a job at Ivan's place, works 5, sometimes 6 days a week. That means it's just me and the guinea pigs a lot of the time. I have a doggy door and an outside run, but it's not the same as touring the neighborhood with your person. Peeing with a potential audience is like talking to yourself. So he's a little lonely. Sometimes I'm the teensiest bit jealous of Ivan and Ruby. They always have someone around, which is crazy. I know, I'm free, and they're not. But there it is. Told you, I'm no saint. The shelter. I know our route to Ivan and Ruby by heart, and I can't help tugging a bit, even though I'm not supposed to. It's been a couple days since I've seen my pals, and I need my friend fix like I need air and water and belly rubs. We don't live far, down the end of the street, around a corner. A good news source there. And then a few more blocks. So he's saying that corner where all the other dogs meet, it's a good place for him to find information out. You remember how he finds information out? smelling other dogs' pee. Ew. I don't think I'd be interested in that news. Well, when I walk Julia, okay, I suppose it looks like she's walking me, but I beg to differ. There's a place we pass that always makes me jumpy and bummed. It's the animal shelter. And I know it's a good place, a space for pets who don't have a safe home of their own. When I was abandoned on the highway just a few weeks old, a nice cage with a soft towel in it and a bowl of fresh water, well, I'd have given just about anything for that. Still, when I walk by and hear those desperate barks and meows and squeaks, it gets to me. Sometimes having great hearing is a pain. Thing is, I realize I have a home and the gang in there doesn't. And I try not to think about stuff like that, you know? I mean, it's not like I can do anything about their tough breaks, right? And in fairness, maybe those animals aren't like me. I've always been resilient. Hard-working sort. If he's resilient, it means he bounces back. He doesn't let things slow him down. Maybe some of those guys even made their own bad luck. Don't get me wrong. I try to be a nice guy. I do what I can to make the world a better place, sure. Chat with the guinea pigs. Lick the strawberry jelly off Julia's hands. Do my wagon dance when the rents come home to make them feel good. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. But it's like I said before. You gotta look out for numero uno. Guess that's why the shelter harshes my mellow. It's just, I'd rather not have to hear those guys every time I walk by. Makes me feel sad. Reminds me of the bad old days. Drulius is the next chapter. I knew this guy back when I hung out at the mall with Ivan and Ruby. Nice dog named Drulius. It's Julius, but with the word drool in it. Drulius. Basic mutt, maybe some lab and golden in there somewhere. He'd done some hard time at a couple of shelters, so he's comparing it there to prison. One of those dogs, you knew, had seen more than his share of the bad stuff the world can throw your way. One ear bitten off, scars, a limp. Drulius lived in his backyard, winter, spring, summer, fall. Chained up, mostly. Flies on his food. Empty water bowl way too often. Still, he always had a nice word to say when I'd pass him on my daily rounds, checking out the neighborhood trash cans. Once I saw his owner. Again, that word. Step onto the back porch. Bob doesn't like the word owner. Drulius was barking, but he had a good reason. A stranger had just passed by. Barking is what we're supposed to do in that circumstance, right? Maybe he's the UPS guy. Maybe he's a serial killer. I mean, come on. We're not the FBI. So anyway, owner came out, big guy, mean looking, gave Drulius a hard kick with his boot and yelled, "Shut up, you fool," and disappeared. Definitely not nice. We don't say shut up to anybody. Drulius looked at me, kind of embarrassed. We kept talking. A few minutes later, the owner came out again and put some towels on a line. Drulius headed over, tail between his legs, cowering, saying, "I'm sorry, I love you, I am yours, yours, yours," with his whole dog being. Guy completely ignored him and headed back inside. "He's having a tough time," said Drulius when he was gone. So, Drulius is kind of making excuses for this guy being mean. "He's a jerk," I said, because subtlety is not my strong point. Remember, Bob is tactless. He just says what he thinks, whether it's mean or nice. "No, he loves me, he does." He has a funny way of showing it, I say. "Humans," said Drulius, licking a sore on his leg. "You know how they can be." Do I ever. But we gotta stay true. Love 'em. Forgive 'em. I thought about that. Thought about it a lot. Why, though? I finally asked. Why do we have to forgive them? Drulius looked shocked, then confused, as if I had just asked why cheese tastes good. "It just does." "That's the way it is," he said. "That's what we do, Bob." I started to reply, but I managed to hold my tongue, which is not easy for me. It's a very long tongue with a mind of its own. which is again why he has no tact, right? He just says what he thinks. There was no point in making Julius feel worse than he already did. Later that morning, I found half a turkey sandwich, gave the whole thing to him. Well, okay, I had a taste first, but still. Forgiveness. Seems like forgiving humans is one of those doggy things we're all supposed to do, like having zoomies or doing bed boogies. It's written into our canine soul. Well, somehow I didn't get the memo. The one that apparently went out to every other dog on the planet about forgiveness. Why should I forgive the humans who tossed me and my siblings out into the night? When you forgive, you lose your anger. And when you lose your anger, you get weak. And when you're weak, you can get hurt all over again. That chapter right there is huge. That lets us know why he doesn't trust humans and why he's been so unwilling to trust Julia and her family. If he trusts them and he lets them in his eyes, it makes him weak. And if he's weak, he can be hurt again. And he doesn't want to be hurt again. The next chapter is called The Art of Watching. By the time we reach the park, the sky is definitely in a bad mood. Remember that hurricane that's coming? Gray clouds galloping like panicked horses. Have you ever seen the clouds so dark in the sky and moving so fast from the wind that it does look like they're galloping or charging like horses? It's a beautiful way to express the sky. The nervous scent of rain on the way, the kind that makes you antsy in your own skin. When we get near the employee entrance, I hop into Julia's backpack like always. We enter through the special gate, where George shows his ID, checks in, and says hi to the staff. Pet dogs aren't allowed at the park. Foxes, wolves, jackals, my dog cousins, they are. But in my opinion, even though they're technically part of my extended family, they are nothing like dogs. Only dogs have perfected the art of people watching. The smartest thing we ever did was figure out how important the human gaze is. So often, when we follow our owner's eyes, we're rewarded with something amazing. A smelly sock. A glazed donut. A glazed donut that's fallen on a smelly sock. We follow every blink, every sidelong glance. We see it, whatever it is, before humans do. We understand before they do. And if there's a glazed donut involved, we eat it before they do. Puppy eyes. It's mid-morning, still pretty early. There aren't many visitors around yet. We've got a meeting in 20, George tells a couple workers. Hank and Sonia, who groan, just a quick one, going over contingency plans one last time in case there's flooding. Again, they're trying to prepare for the hurricane. During the last hurricane, a small part of the park flooded, mostly near Reptileville. George helped move the cages. He came home smelling like cotton mouths and copperheads. It was all I could do not to barf. Weather Service just issued a tornado watch, Hank says. I thought we were having a hurricane, Julia says. We are. It's called Gus. But sometimes tornadoes are spawned or created during hurricanes, George explains. So a hurricane is a natural disaster. It's a natural weather event. And sometimes hurricanes can cause tornadoes to happen as well. Hurricanes are something that are generated over water and then move inland. And tornadoes are just on land. But they can be started by the hurricane, just like the flooding can be caused by the hurricane. Julia frowns. But a watch means maybe, not for sure, right? So when we have a watch and a warning, the watch is like, hey, this might be happening. The warning is, yup, it's happening. Take caution, get ready. Yeah, but I want you to head home, George says, just in case. Please, Dad, just 10 minutes, Julia says. She's using the special voice she reserves for moments when she really, really wants something from her parents. Do you have a special voice you keep for begging? I guess kids manipulate their moms and dads the same way dogs manipulate humans. I don't know, George begins. I promised Bob. I figured That's my cue to pop my head out and look adorable. So I do. "Hey, Bob," says Hank. Sonia reaches over and scratches my ears. I'm pretty popular around the park. I give George my best puppy eyes, and he caves. 10 minutes, tops, he says. "Meet me back here." Puppy eyes. Works every time. Mr. Oog. I like Mr. Oog. Here's how I figure puppy eyes got their start. Cave humans were sitting around a fire wearing mammoth fur and grunting about how there was nothing on TV because, well, TV hadn't been invented yet, and some wily wolf thought, "Whoa, they've got leftover mammoth meat." And he probably whimpered and cowered and did a tummy display and looked pathetic enough that Mr. Oog finally tossed him a bone. So Mr. Oog is the caveman. And soon enough, a few zillion years later, voila, man's best friend. After all that time, there's a thing, like a magnetic attraction, between dogs and humans. We've studied them for so long we can read every twitch and sigh. Suppose it was easier than chasing down mammoths. And I get it, I do. The behind-the-ear scratch, the food in the fancy bowl, the bed by the fireplace. Gotta admit that Julia's pretty fun to hang out with. And I'm grateful, really I am. Her family took me in. Still, I don't need them. You need someone. Eventually, they let you down, and you end up feeling like a real doofus. So he's liking being with Julia's family, but he's still not 100% ready to trust them yet, is he? He's still holding back on us. Next chapter is called The Park, and we'll stop here for this video. As Julia walks, I sneak peeks out of her backpack, like I always do. We pass the meerkat family, poking out of their den holes like a whack-a-mole game they used to have at Max Mall. I see the flashy flamingos with their one-legged balancing act, and the terrifyingly beautiful tigers. Even their cute cubs give me the willies. Families, I've noticed, take a lot of different shapes. Jim and Joe the penguins adopted an abandoned egg, and they are the sweetest doting parents you ever saw. I see it with humans at the park, too. Families with all shapes and sizes and colors and genders, and yep, they all seem to do just fine. We round a corner past Sea Otter Alley. Oliver and Olivia are floating calmly on their backs, holding each other's paws. It's pretty adorable, I have to admit. But me, I don't need the trouble that comes with family. Babies puking, toddlers whining, spouses nagging. Talk about a design flaw. And here's Bob and Julia making their way through the park. And that looks like one of the otters. The park's pretty big. Lots of twisty paths and fascinating smells. All the parts have names. There's the African Aviary. That's where the birds are. The Outback. Penguin Cove, Lemur Land. See a lot of alliteration. Lemur Land, African Aviary, where they start, the words start with the same beginning sounds. It's like puzzle pieces of the world. A little Africa here, a little Asia there. Dogs, you can find us pretty much anywhere, everywhere. Our territory is Earth, as long as we're hooked up with humans, that is. Along the shady paths, volunteer guides will answer your questions. They'll tell you about how animals used to roam one part of the world or another until things changed. Things change. That's one thing I've figured out. Don't ever assume a little patch of the planet belongs to you. Things change. Boxes go flying. So we find out again he's making a reference to when he was tossed from the truck from the people that owned his mother. So again, that's coming back to why he doesn't trust humans. So as we keep going in the book, I think we're going to see slowly, little by little, Bob start to trust Julia and her family a little more. We'll see what happens in the next part. Talk to you guys later. Bye.